Okay, we're getting to that very hot weather. You know what the temperature really is? Well, you don't need to understand what the meteorological department is really saying, but of course you can feel it all within you, all day and all night, with Lagos humidity level around 63 and a temperature around 32 degrees Celsius. That's about 65 thereabouts in terms of Fahrenheit, degrees Fahrenheit. Still a little bit got my science of physics. Those elementary days. Adimo Kwesa is here from Financial Derivatives, one of the some of the research analysts. Good morning. It's good morning, to have you. And you folks are the one who believe that one of the burning economic issue is the burning sun.
It is. It's actually gotten hotter.
Folks are complaining.
It is.
Even in Abuja, I got tweets that it's hot everywhere.
It is extremely hot and it's humid. That's even the most important thing. It's humid. The humidity is so low.
And the weather was so cloudy this morning here in Lagos. And I thought we were going to have the first rain in 2018, but looks like just cleared up. And the sun is
I think this would extend maybe for the next 2 weeks. And also, I'm hearing that it also has something to do with greenhouse emissions, greenhouse gases, climate change. So maybe that's why it's actually hotter than normal. So, but it's actually very hot compared to previous years, and
yeah, it looks like it keeps rising every year.
Yeah, we'll get used to it.
And when weather changes like this, agricultural commodities get impacted.
Yes, agricultural commodities are extremely vulnerable to weather and pests, and so agricultural sector is something that we have to actually take a look at, especially with rising temperatures now. Yes. Yeah,
rising temperature is no good news for agriculture. But again, let's go through burning economic issues, the latest as we have them right now. Let's put that up on the screen, guys. Crude oil is part of the animal spirit being crushed globally. We're now way down below the doorstep of 70.
Yes, but if you look at, I think, global markets, every global market is in the red now, and I think this bearish sentiment is extending to this asset class, the oil market, and maybe other commodities too. But if you look at it, and if you put it in context, $99 is still about $4 away from the high of $71. So we're still in good territory. That's about 4%. The downward correction territory is 10%, the 10% loss. We're actually about 4% loss now. So we're still some way far from that downward correction. So I think we're still in it.
We shouldn't panic with that.
Not yet,
number one.
Not at all.
Number two, the dollar is down about 0.14% against the basket of currencies. That's if you're looking at the dollar index.
Yeah, the US dollar is about 10 or 12% weaker than this time last year. So that is why the dollar is actually the naira is actually strengthening against the dollar. But if you compare that to other currencies, the pound and euro, naira is actually weakened. So
to other major, in particular the pound, for example.
Yes, indeed.
I got some folks who complain perpetually about where the pound is in relation to the naira. We're around 500 now, something like that.
The pound has strengthened in the last couple of weeks, so maybe that is why the naira is actually weakening against the pound. Yes.
But if you look at the little gain we had there, I'm sure that is getting discounted. Retail prices of diesel, on-grid power. Then we'll talk about the temperature. But let's go to some news in the what is good and what is not really good. Well, the temperature is not good. That's number one.
Yeah. So commodities, domestic commodity prices. This is the period of the year where we actually see a downward trend in those commodities, and the price of Garri is actually down. If you compare that to the high of 16,000 naira, now it is actually 7,000 naira for a 50 kg bag of Garri. So that is actually very good news for the lower class,
for those who
middle class, middle income class, low income class. Yes, so that is actually.
No, I still in the local balance. I still soak Garri, so I belong to the lower class. I'm still there.
I do.
A lot of folks, big folks, drink Garri behind closed doors.
Very.
Honestly, you never can tell. In this very hot weather, a bowl of Garri with cold water, just
groundnuts,
just do it for me. Yes. I did that on Sunday. That was about 72 hours ago, and that's the confession, true confession here on Sunday. And I think I did that too. The upper Sunday as well. I'm getting addicted. At least once a week. Once a week, I have Garri and cold water. When you've been out in the sun, African sun. For here in Nigeria, you need that.
Yes.
Garri with water and granite. Very cheap, local delicacy. You may want to try that if you're here. There's made in Nigeria, 100%.
Yes, but the bad news on that list, petrol scarcity, I think in Abuja, is queues are starting to recur again. So I think the normal trend is that a week or and a half after queues hit Abuja to come to Lagos. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But if we are realistic, we have to expect.
The petrol scarcity in Abuja is one piece of news we're tracking. But let's go into the oil and gas. And the news is about the Egina FPSO. That was good news for Nigeria, about $10 billion deal we did there, just as we're getting good news that Garri is also back from Shell. So on all fronts, despite the gentle decline in the last few days in oil prices globally, these are good news from the local front, isn't it?
Yes, and you know that production is actually the key metric. So if our production, a potential production is likely going to rise in the next few months, that is excellent news for Nigeria. The FPSO is a remarkable achievement. 200,000 barrels per day for 25 years. And this is actually driving up this local content initiative, So it's positive, a very positive development.
I love the local content part of it. But let's wrap up that conversation to the agriculture, and we'll go back to the weather and what have you. And we've seen a number of pests impacting cassava, impacting maize. We talk about the armyworm. It looks like it's not just in Nigeria, but a few other African countries, because weather is changing and these pests are beginning to appear and reappear, and that is one serious issue. So farmers are going to be making losses.
Yes, indeed, and that speaks to another development. Yeah, like you said, pests is a very dogged issue for farmers. Pests, weather, these armyworms. We also have this red locust that's also affecting our crops. So the hope is that the government can build the resilience of farmers I beg your pardon. The hope is that the government can build the agricultural sector's resistance to these weather and pest-related shocks. So,
technical issues, funding, support for farmers. We're getting news that NASA and one insurance company and the NIMET, which is the Nigerian Meteorological Agency, are coming together to design an index insurance product for farmers, and then millions of Nigerian farmers will benefit from that.
Yes, they are going to provide a very broad range of innovative insurance products for farmers. For example, a product that can manage the risk against, let's say, this livestock being harmed, against this headmen and farmers clash, and also weather-related risks. And also, for example, if the price of a certain agricultural commodity declined, the government can swoop in and buy that product and
off the farmers, so off the producers.
That would incentivize farmers to come to the table and start produce output. So
I like that.
Yes, indeed.
I like that. But let's speak specifically to cassava, which we've spent the last 10 years technically ramping up, and we got kudos from around the world how we've been able to make cassava a game changer. But of course, if you look at the global total production, explain that to us where we stand in the scheme of things.
Yes, Nigeria is actually the largest producer of tubers. Tubers meaning yam and cassava. We're the largest producer and largest exporter, so that is excellent news and speaks volumes of our agricultural sector. Cassava, the most common product is Garri.
Yes, and look at the uses there, Garri is number one. I think we're done with Garri. We're also number one consumer of cassava byproducts.
Yes, indeed.
Garri number one. Fufu number
starch.
2. I'm not too much of that.
Yes, industrial starch.
Yes.
Use it for our clothes and whatnot. And also biofuels. That is also a very...
the animal feed, I think we're also doing a little bit
on
that in terms of using this for animal feed and save us foreign exchange, bringing animal feed, importing animal feed.
Yes, indeed.
But the biofuel is one area that we haven't done much on that list.
Yes, indeed.
So we've consumed more of Garri rather than turning into fuel and putting in our car.
That is coming up. In the last few years, we're seeing progress being made on that front. I think most plants are using biofuels to power
ethanol or something.
Yes, indeed. So in the next couple of years, you see more of that coming. And also, cassava is also used. It can also be used for alcohol too. You can ferment it and produce a certain type of alcohol. So
For consumption?
yes,
That's interesting.
yes,
I'm
yes,
hearing
yes.
that I'm hearing that for the first time.
But the most common trend is that most Nigerians actually, you can see most in the airport, you see most Nigerians taking a bag of Garri. So it is used, it's exported to Nigerians and Africans in diaspora. So it's actually a very popular product and has a very good business opportunity and export
You find
potential.
Garri
Yes.
everywhere. We just rather put the Garri in our stomach than putting the biofuel in our car. Maybe that's just what we want to do. Just make it locally, and that saves you a lot of money. If you have a number of kids and they're back from school in a very hot afternoon, Garri might just be a very cheap lunch, holding everyone together until dinner time.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds really good. In terms of output, where are we? We're ranked #1 globally.
We're #1 with 80 million tons potential output. And secondly, I think the one common trend is that Garri is consumed by countries with high populations. I think Nigeria is #1, China is #2, India is #3, Russia is #4. Russia is actually top producer and consumer of Garri too.
Really?
Most people wouldn't know that. Yes, actually. So
I don't know that. I didn't know that. Really?
yes, of tubers, I beg your pardon.
Yes, of cassava tubers.
Cassava tubers and yam tubers.
Yes.
I have to correct that. Yes. So there's a trend between high populated countries and Garri.
And cassava.
Yes, tuber consumption and tuber production.
Yeah, it looks like every country that has a very large population produces cassava because it looks like one very important agri-product where you get a lot of derivatives and that can satisfy your local community. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate that. Do have a great weekend. And if anytime you join the Garri consumption, let me know. I'm doing a survey of how many Nigerians actually consume Garri in that form. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?